This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Helen of Troy was famously called the face that launched 1,000 ships. Donald Trump, with one social media post attacking Jack Smith and the prosecutors and all prosecutors in the case, launched at least 5 different federal filings, 2 federal court orders ultimately against him on the issue of whether a protective order should immediately be issued in the new case that Jack Smith has brought, the Jan 6th interference case before Judge Tanya Chutkan. One social media post is all it took. Now look, we predicted on Legal AF and otherwise that procedurally the government would soon, after the arraignment, be asking for a protective order to be put in place, just as they did in the Mar-a-Lago case, so they could start dumping all of the data, information, witness transcripts, and other evidence that they've accumulated on Donald Trump's defense side ASAP. Because the government will never be accused of dragging their feet when it comes to providing documents and information to Donald Trump and the other side, because they want to get this case to trial as soon as possible. And the only way you can do that if you're the government is that you come to the court with completely clean hands on the 28th of August when the judge is going to hear argument about setting a trial in the new case, Judge Tanya Chutkan. And the only way you can do that is to bring a dump truck, bring sheds of information and documents and give them to the other side so they can't argue that they haven't had at least the first opportunity to look at information in this 4 different criminal count indictment against Donald Trump. So the government's ready. Every time, remember, when Jack Smith brings an indictment, that's because he's ready right behind it, right, to back up the truck and dump Donald Trump with everything that he needs in order to defend himself in the case. They are ready. Government is ready. Donald Trump, after he's done with the arraignment, mumbling his name and he's not on drugs and how old he is, he then went about attacking prosecutors in a social media post we're going to put right up here on the screen, in which he said, "You come after me, I come after you." Mob talk, organized crime talk. That's why prosecutors are using the RICO statute against him, because he operates like a mob boss. And to anybody that suggests, like his spokesperson, that he wasn't attacking the prosecutor, he made it clear right after that in the same social media posting chain when he put the fraud squad and put Jack Smith and Letitia James and Fawny Willis and Alvin Bragg all listed there as some sort of hit squad, right, that people can attack and go after. So it's clear what his messaging was. And the government said, you know what? We're about to file our motion for protective order anyway. Why don't we put in there as one of the grounds why the judge should not hesitate to enter a protective order, meaning that Donald Trump cannot tell the public in social media posts by his spokespeople, indirectly or directly, any of the confidential and sensitive information that's contained in the discovery, the Brady material, right? The material the government has to constitutionally turn over to a defendant. None of that should be posted in public, criticized, critiqued, right? Because the government told Judge Chutkan that we're ready to give him witness testimony, witness transcripts, sealed search warrant material, other transcripts, other documents that have personal identifying information, including about who potential witnesses are, co-conspirators, other unindicted people that they're still going after. And we don't want him commenting on that in the public. Enter the protective order. And they gave a proposed protective order. Now, they say when they filed that motion, which followed just hours after the social media posting I showed you, they also told the court, enter it now. We tried to negotiate with the other side. We tried to meet and confer, but they gave us some ridiculous protective order proposal, which doesn't do it, right? Would not limit Donald Trump appropriately given the circumstances. We gave them, the government said, a model of a protective order that Judge Nichols in the same court just recently used, I presume, for Steve Bannon and his trial, and said, let's use this one. This one, a federal judge already approved. Let's use this one. We can live with this one. And rather than continue to go back and forth, given that the defense, Trump's lawyers, took the position that we cannot meaningfully comment in the date for the trial because we don't know the volume of the material, then Jack Smith's team said, fine, enter the protective order, reach a deal with us, don't foot drag, and we'll give you all that information. When it became apparent that they were foot dragging, the government filed the motion for protective order directly, right off that tweet, right off that social media posting in which they were threatened. And in it, they say, here's the grounds, Your Honor, because this defendant has a history on social media of making statements regarding judges, attorneys, and witnesses, right? And we know he's going to do it again. You got to stop him in this motion for protective order. The judge immediately, because like I said at the top, the face that launched 1,000 ships, the social media posting that launched a flurry of activity all within a 24 and 36 hour period. So we've got the social media posting. Several hours later, the motion for protective orders filed. Several hours later, the Judge Tanya Chutkan, enters her minute order, which we have up here, which gives the Trump only until Monday at 5 p.m., so basically one business day, to get together and either look at the red line, look at the proposed protective order, and give a proposed set of edits, we call it a red line, back to the judge, right? So they can be heard before the judge makes the ultimate decision. Now, rather than do that and spend the several hours that it would take to do it, the Trump side decided to spend several hours preparing a 5-page opposition paper asking the court for a motion for extension of time, not to have the issue heard on Monday, but give them till Thursday. As noted by the Department of Justice in a filing just hours after that, the time it took them to write the 5 pages is probably more time than it would have been just to do the work, just to comment on the protective order and run this thing to the ground and be done with it. But no, because Donald Trump's lawyers wanted to, poke a stick at the Department of Justice and say, oh, they're big and bad. They're not conferring with us. They're filing protective order motions without really having meaningful discussion with us. And they did that before, Your Honor, and with Judge Cannon, this whining. And Judge Cannon didn't like it, as if Judge Chutkan cares what Judge Cannon did in Florida, of all people, of all fellow colleague judges. And, oh, they did it there. They did it here, Judge. They went off and did a Friday filing, and we don't like to work past 5 o'clock on Fridays. It's the summer, Your Honor. Whatever else they argued. And then the Department of Justice isn't having it either. The Department of Justice said, yeah. 2 hours later, they filed a paper. We have a copy of it here, and they filed a paper and said exactly what I just laid out. Judge, we don't get it. They spent an entire afternoon writing a 5-page motion for extension of time to push the thing ahead 72 hours. Why didn't they just do the work as you ordered it to be done by 5 o'clock on Monday? And they also, for good measure, Trump's lawyer says, why don't we, Monday's not good for us, Judge. How about Thursday? How's your Thursday look and why don't we have a hearing? Let's have a hearing, because delay. And as I predicted on Legal AF, our podcast also on the MeidasTouch network, it's exactly what happened. The judge says, I'm the one wearing the black robe. I'm the one in charge of my courtroom. My order says what my order says, which is Monday by 5 o'clock. And the only modification she made in denying, finally, we just got the denial a minute later, right? Denying the motion for extension of time by Donald Trump. She said, you know what? Here's the order. Denied. You spend the time. You want to spend the time between now and Monday at 5 o'clock, or even after Monday at 5 o'clock, consulting with the government and making comments on your on the protective order? Go ahead. You want to file something else on Monday? You can do that too. You have till Monday at 5 o'clock. And I'll decide then, me, federal judge, district judge, Tanya Chutkan, not you, lawyers for Donald Trump. I'll decide whether I need a hearing or not. I don't see it at the moment, but let's see what happens after I see whatever it is you're going to file on Monday. The ball is now in your court. I'm summarizing the order, but that's what happened. All of what I just described, right? From the social media posting to the government's motion for protective order to the court's ruling on the motion for protective order, setting the Monday deadline, to Trump's 5-page opposition and motion for extension of time till Thursday, to the federal government's response to that, and the judge's order denying the motion for extension of time and sticking to her guns on Monday's deadline. All those 6 things happened in a 24-hour period. Who says justice doesn't move swiftly? Who says the wheels of justice turn slowly? Not in Judge Tanya Chutkin's courtroom. And as I said on Legal AF, the podcast that I co-anchor on the MeidasTouch network, this was going to be a test for Tanya Chutkin, the judge, about letting everybody know who's in charge and letting her know that she's the anti Eileen Cannon down in Florida, that judge. She has a firm grasp on the tiller. She has a firm grasp and control and command of her courtroom procedures, and what she wants. And she's not going to sit there idly by to have a couple of lawyers for Donald Trump being paid by the Save America PAC tell her how to run her courtroom procedurally. She's going to make that ruling. So I like it because it draws that line in the sand early on about how she's going to run the rocket docket that is her courtroom. And I think that bodes terribly for Donald Trump. Because when the next major event after this protective order gets issued, and there will be a protective order issued, including with, I'm sure, edits and changes by the federal judge, which is going to effectively gag Donald Trump from commenting at all and reviewing at all without having be babysat by his lawyers, this discovery material produced by the government. And it's going to be a lot. It's going to be 100 terabytes of information, I'm sure. And they're going to go complaining about that. Oh, we just got 100 terabytes of information. Judge, it's the equivalent of 16 tractor trailers. If you stacked it, end to end, it would halfway reach to the moon. You can already anticipate the filing that's going to be made by John Lauro and Todd Blanche to say that they need 2.5 years before they can even try this case, while the judge nods her head patiently and says, yeah, we're not doing that. This case is going to trial under the Speedy Trial Act before the election because it's important to democracy that happens. Those are the future steps we're going to follow only in one place, the MeidasTouch Network. Free subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then if you want to follow and kind of keep track of news and happenings at that intersection of law and politics, go to the new website they just launched, the MeidasTouch.com website. Everything's there. News, articles, our podcast, the hot takes, T-shirts, you name it. We got it. It's all for free on the MeidasTouch.com website. And if you like what I'm doing, go over to YouTube. Again, MeidasTouch, free subscribe. Go over to playlists. Find Michael Popak. You'll find all 300 plus of my hot takes, including this one listed there. Wednesdays and Saturdays, join us on the MeidasTouch Network for Legal AF. You like these kind of hot takes? You're going to love the podcast. Audio versions drop everywhere and every place you get podcasts, from Spotify to Apple to Google, etc. And you can watch us live record on YouTube as well, Legal AF. Like what I'm doing, follow me on all things social media at MS Popak, including now on Threads. Until the next hot take, Michael Popak, Legal AF.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.